Hey everybody, and welcome back to Influencer. It's week 4 of our small group series, and it has been an incredible journey so far as we've explored how influence can shape our lives and how we as followers of Jesus can make a positive impact on the world. Today I want to talk about fear. I'm not sure what your greatest fear is, but chances are that even mentioning it, you are now thinking about yours. Fear has this incredible ability to claim real estate in our minds, even when we are not wanting it to. One of my greatest fears in life is snakes. I am irrationally terrified of those creepy danger noodles, right? It doesn't matter how big or small. If I see an earthworm that I think might be a snake, I will run in the other direction. But sometimes my fear shows up even when there isn't a snake around. Like the moments when I'm sitting on the edge of my bed and the fear whispers in my mind, there's a snake under the bed and that's gonna get you. You see, fear can have this power, and sometimes fear can even stop us from being an influencer. Today I want to explore fear and influence in the story of a young Jewish woman named Esther, who found herself in a position that she never expected. She became queen of Persia during a critical time for her people. Now, just imagine this, right? Esther was just an orphan living in a foreign land, but through a series of unexpected events, she became the queen, a position of significant influence. Chapter 2 of Esther says that the king loved Esther more than any of the other young women. He was so delighted with her that he set the royal crown on her head and declared her the queen. At that time, her people faced a great threat. Esther's cousin Mordecai discovered that a wicked man named Haman was plotting to annihilate the Jewish people. Chapter 3 and verse 8, it says, "Then Haman approached King Xerxes and said that there is a certain race of people scattered throughout all the provinces of your empire who keep themselves separate from everyone else. Their laws are different from those of any other people, and they refuse to obey the laws of the king. So it is not in the king's interest to let them live. If it pleases the king, issue a decree that they be destroyed, and I will give 10,000 large sacks of silver to the government administrators to be deposited in the royal treasury." Haman is trying to bribe his way into having the king execute the Jewish people. And here's the thing, verse 10 tells us that the king agreed, confirming his decision by removing his signet ring from his finger and giving it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said, "The money and the people are both yours to do with as you see fit." You see, Esther's story is one of courage, faith, and the remarkable power of influence. It's a story of how she didn't let fear stop her from being an influencer who saved her people. Esther's defining moment came when Mordecai urged her to approach the king and plead for her people's salvation. Now, you must understand that the laws of the land dictated that approaching the king without an invitation was illegal. It could cost even the queen her life. But Esther did not let fear paralyze her. She chose to harness her influence as the queen to change the course of history itself. Esther chapter 4, verse 16 tells us about this interaction between Mordecai and Esther when he asks her to help save their people. It says, "Go gather together all the Jews of Susan and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same. And then, though it is against the law, I will go to see the king. If I must die, I must die." You see, she risked everything for her people, turning to prayer and fasting for guidance and strength. Chapter 5 tells us on the 3rd day of the fast, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the inner court of the palace, just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her and held out the golden scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. Then the king asked her, "What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half of the kingdom." Esther asked the king and Haman to join her at a feast the next evening. She's planning how to approach the king with this information. And when they arrive at the banquet, Esther says to the king, "If I have found favor with the king, and if it pleases the king to grant me my request, I ask that my life and the lives of my people be spared. For my people and I have been sold to those who would kill, slaughter, and annihilate us. If we had merely been sold as slaves, I could have remained quiet, for that would be too trivial a matter to warrant disturbing the king." "Who would do such a thing?" King Xerxes demanded. "Who would be so presumptuous as to touch you, Queen Esther?" And Esther replied, "This wicked man, Haman, is our adversary and our enemy." And it says that Haman grew pale with fright before the king and queen. He was busted. His plan was discovered. And in that pivotal moment, as she stood before King Xerxes, Esther's influence was undeniable. She exposed Haman's wicked plans, and the king took action. Esther's courage and influence led to the salvation of her people, a miraculous intervention by God. Esther's story isn't just an ancient story. It's a reminder that each of us has the ability to be an influencer. Fear can often be the enemy of influence. Fear of sharing our faith, fear of the repercussions if we speak up. Maybe it's the fear of rejection. The fear that wants to claim real estate in our minds leads us to pause instead of influence. Esther's courage should inspire us. It's a testament to what can happen when we choose not to let fear hinder us from making a positive impact on the lives of those around us. You see, God can use us, even in unexpected circumstances, to make a difference in the world. As we go about our daily lives, let's strive to be influencers who, like Esther, stand up for what's right and shape our world for the better, even when we're scared, even when we're uncomfortable, and even if we're afraid. Hey, I want to thank you again so much for joining us for week 4 of Influencer. Together, let's continue to influence for Jesus and see lives transformed as we spread his love wherever we go.